it out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 632nd edition of Energy Week with George Harvey, me.
Yes.
There I am. And Nancy Wolf.
Hello.
Who else? Nancy Wolf is the brains, and I'm the... I'm the whatever is left over. I'm getting to be 79 years old, and I feel like, you know, my brain is not what it used to be. And your brain is obviously what it was. So, you know, you're the brains. Okay, this is a show that does energy and climate change news. What's the word?
Aggregation.
Aggregation, that's what it is. News aggregation for energy and climate change based on a blog that I keep on, which is aggregation of energy and climate change. That blog is geoharvey.com, geoharvey.com. You can go there and go to the date that we're talking about by clicking on it on the calendar and get to whatever item we've got so that you can read the original article. Or, much easier, you can go to scroll in whatever direction you can scroll, usually down or to the right. I'm saying right, but that's left on the TV screen.
Not confusing.
Not confusing, okay. You can go that way. And there's going to be a URL, which is I think it's called Tiny URL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
Tiny URL Energy Week 632 is going to be what it is. And that will have just what we're talking about with the pictures and the links, and you could go there and just go to wherever it is that you want to go and read the material. So Nancy has had a mishap, which means that she did all the work. She was doing extremely well, and a pack of wolves attacked her and ate her notes.
Yes.
Okay. And
My family.
My
family.
Yeah, and I never lie. Never.
No.
Okay, we're going to start on the 17th of July. No, not the 17th, the 10th of July. I keep doing that. I look at the title of the show, which is today's date, and I call that the starting date. We're going to do the 10th of July to the 16th of July. Yeah. We're starting on the 10th, and we have a picture of a solar array. And this is from Balkan Green Energy News. I'm going to read all this stuff. I'm going to let Nancy say whatever she wants to say afterwards.
Great.
She usually reads the titles, but I will read them today. The title is Solar Beats Nuclear in June, becoming the European Union's biggest electricity source for the first time. Solar generated more electricity in the European Union for the first time last month, with several countries setting records with it, according to Ember. Solar power generated 22.1% of European electricity, that is EU electricity. Nuclear was second at 21.8%, and what was third? Wind power with 15.8%. So basically what's happening is so-called clean energy is really running fossil fuels out of the picture, but I don't think anybody should call nuclear clean.
How is it clean? It
doesn't emit carbon, and that by itself is a falsehood, because it's got to be mined, it's got to be processed. The processing of nuclear in the United States was being done in a plant in Kentucky. It isn't anymore, but that plant was the worst polluter of all of our coal burning power plants. mean, nuclear is, when it comes to coal, to carbon, nuclear is not a shining example of clean energy.
I mean, just look at all the tetrachemicals that come off of. I mean, all the runoff, all the industrial
We've got
waste.
Industrial waste. We've got environmental waste. We've got Indian populations that have been really hit hard with cancer and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, you have genetically women. There are genetic markers for women in Navajo Nation due to the using of this land.
It's horrible. It's horrible. And the numbers that come out of the nuclear industry are horrible because they are so far off from reality.
Yep.
The average nuclear plant comes in costing 202% plus of what it's originally bid at. And it takes typically twice as long. We should have had, in the little bit over 20,000 reactor years that have happened worldwide, we should have had one meltdown. I would excuse a number 2. We've had 11 that I can name.
Yep.
I mean, this is crazy. And why do people go for nuclear? Simple. Because there's a lot of money involved.
Well, I would say that, and then in terms of the consumer, I would say a lot of times when you use the word nuclear, it's like people's eyes glaze over.
Yes.
They don't want to, because they think it's more complicated than honestly it is.
Well, nuclear plants are complicated
They're
to run.
They're complicated, but understanding
the question of how and why and so forth is not complicated, I don't think. I've got notes on this. Some nuclear plants close because of high temperatures. They need to be cooled.
Yep.
The Millstone plant in Connecticut was one in the United States that closed because of high summer temperatures. There's a reason for this. And, this came through in spades to me when a nuclear engineer from Vermont Yankee told me that if they trapped all of the waste heat at Vermont Yankee and could somehow get that heat to houses in Vermont, they would be able to use it to heat every house in Vermont. That's what is being put into the river. That's what's being put into the air. And, there it is. They use 2% of the fuel.
Yep.
And they use it at 35% efficiency. And then what do you do about the waste that's left over? Because
you just bury it. You bury it at the plant because we don't have anywhere else to bury it, so you bury it at the plant site.
Okay, we have to go on. We're getting behind. We have an item from Renews, and we have a picture of wind turbines. The title here is Masdar and Iberdrola closed deal for $5.2 billion East Anglia 3 financing. Masdar and Iberdrola closed a joint investment deal for the 1,400 megawatt East Anglia 3 offshore wind farm in the UK, in what the companies called the largest offshore wind transaction of the decade. Bigger ones will come, I'll betcha. The agreement is just part of a wider 15 billion euro strategic alliance. And I swear I saw that picture and I thought that's got to be Block Island. And then when I looked at it more closely, I said no. The fact, to my eye, those turbines there are not lined up. They follow an arc. And the yellow jacket that you have at the bottom is what they have at Block Island. But the turbines are not Block Island's turbines. They're different. And a lot of wind farms, they do make arcs because they don't want all the turbines in an exact row. Because if the wind goes down the turbines,
then
you get reduction in output because the turbines interfere with each other.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go on. We have a picture here of Port Newark, and this picture came from the article. This is from Clean Technica. If they can put solar here, they can put it anywhere. That's the title. A bustling, sprawling 320-acre shipping hub is probably the last place one would expect to see a new 7.2 megawatt solar power plant, but here it is. At the Port Newark Container Terminal in New Jersey, solar panels have been shoehorned into a tightly packed, high-traffic shipping facility. And I am not surprised one bit. So, you got anything to say about that?
Tell me why you're not surprised.
Because you can generate power from solar anywhere, except in, actually, honestly, you could probably generate solar in places that are always in shadow if you've got a good shot at the sky. I have some solar panels that will generate power after the sun goes down, as long as the sun is reflected off clouds. And we're getting to a point where and of course that only lasts for a few minutes at most, but we're getting to a point where the immediate use of the land, particularly over parking places and stuff, the immediate use of the land is important. Okay, we're up to Friday, July 11th, and we have an article from Clean Technica. This is a picture of a town in Alaska. The title is Geothermal and Borehole Thermal Energy Storage Can Reliably Heat Buildings in Extreme Cold, NREL Modeling Results Show. Energy storage research from NREL, the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, which is a United States DOE national laboratory, has demonstrated a way to store and reuse heat underground to meet the heating demands of cold places like Alaska. And the thing that's heating this village is solar and wind. They don't need coal, they don't need, and honestly, I think almost every place on Earth where you have access to sunshine in a reasonable amount can be done solar, and we've got an amazing amount of renewable energy available, and all we've got to do is use it. But instead, there are people who want us to continue using fossil fuels because they're going to claim that you need fossil fuels. You need baseload power because the sun doesn't always shine and the moon doesn't always blow, or something like that. Wind doesn't always blow. I said moon on purpose.
But the moon might blow. Who knows?
Well, the thing is, we're being scammed here, and this is a big time scam. And the scam is fossil fuels, and they want us to be set back in a date in terms of technology when there really were people investing in buggy whips because they weren't sure about these new vehicles that were coming out. And the baseload power was developed between 1880 and 1920, and they want us to hold to that. And solar, wind, hydro, geothermal, tidal, all of this stuff is an entirely new paradigm, and it works perfectly when you use one of the hundreds of kinds of batteries that are available, and some of them are so cheap, it's crazy not to do that. So, okay, we have a picture here of Montenegro, and I forget the name of the village. My daughter, at the time that I was doing this, picking the picture out, was actually vacationing in Montenegro.
Oh.
Okay, this is from EBRD, and which is not media. It's source. It's the company. And the title is EBRD supports the first renewable energy auction in Montenegro. Are you familiar with Montenegro?
I have not ever been to Montenegro.
Did you know such a place existed?
I've heard of Montenegro. I've never been to Montenegro.
Okay. Most people have never heard of it. You know, this is a tiny country. I think it's physically smaller than Vermont.
Oh.
It's really small. It used to be part of Yugoslavia. With support from the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, Montenegro's Ministry of Energy and Mining has launched the country's first renewable energy auction. The incentive scheme covers 250 megawatts of solar power generating capacity. I want to mention here that Montenegro borders Albania. And Albania is one of a very few countries in Europe. I think Albania might be the only country in Europe that just has been operating 100% renewable for years.
Yeah.
And the reason is because the Albanians put up hydro stations that were sufficient for all their power needs. There are other countries. Bhutan is one. Mm-hmm. And there are countries that you don't hear about much. I look for lists of countries that are renewably powered, and I never see Tokelau on there. Tokelau is a country. Tokelau is 100% solar. Tokelau is probably also in trouble because of rising seas. I don't know.
Oh, yep.
So,
I remember them speaking at one of the climate conferences.
oh,
Yeah. I'm like, we're still here.
yeah.
Bye. Please don't help us disappear.
I read, it wasn't Tokelau doing this, but there was one country that they knew they were going to be swamped by rising seas. Mm-hmm. And you can see it just from photographs of the country. The high tide it's coming up to the front doors, and the people started buying land in another island country. And it was land that nobody wanted, hillside land and stuff, a little bit farther from the beach. This is what people need to do to survive. Okay, we have a picture of sunflowers and wind turbines, mm-hmm. and an article from Renews. This is also EBRD, but it's not from EBRD, it's from Renews. EBRD unveils 1.5 billion euros Ukraine renewables plan. The EBRD and this is the European, what is EBRD? It's the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. And its partners launched a mechanism to unlock 1.5 billion euros in renewable energy investments in the Ukraine. I shouldn't say the Ukraine. They don't like that. It's
no.
Just Ukraine.
Ukraine.
But after 60 years plus of,
saying 70
the
Ukraine,
years,
I know,
Ukraine, it's kind of hard to stop. Aiming to support 1 gigawatt of new capacity and rebuild generating capacity damaged by war. The European Commission, IFC, and the World Bank are among the groups that are supporting this. So Ukraine is switching to renewable energy, and well, they should. Mm-hmm. When I think of the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant there, this is 6 big nuclear reactors. It's the biggest nuclear plant in Europe. And it seems like every other week something gets blown up and they have to turn on their emergency generators. The Russians took it over, and
I mean, it's like someone takes a weapon just from you and is just, here, I can make your weapon fire back at you now.
Yes. And that, by the way, is something that I think is a really, really important lesson. A nuclear plant is a bomb that just needs a trigger.
Exactly.
And Okay, all my life, people who are pro-nuclear have been saying it's not going to turn into a nuclear bomb. Well, it's not. It's going to turn into a dirty bomb.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's going to be a focus of. It's going to be used for what's the word? When you tell extortion.
Extortion, yeah.
It's going to be used to extort people. It's going to be used to threaten people.
Yep.
You have a nuclear reactor in your backyard or down the street or 100 miles away, and we know how to deal with that. And we're going to see later in this show where things can go wrong really fast, and the people who have the ability to do it haven't quite figured it out yet, but they will. You can bet on it. I remember my Uncle Kent, who was a colonel in the Army, saying, I don't know what we're going to do when these countries, all around the world get nuclear reactors, because, then they're going to be building nuclear bombs.
Yes, that's how it works. That's how it works.
Okay. We're up to Saturday, July 12th, and we have a picture of a geothermal power plant. And that picture, by the way, came from Wikimedia Commons. That's a good picture.
Yeah.
EGEC report forecasts resurgence in deployment of geothermal energy solutions across Europe. The European Geothermal Energy Council, EGEC, released its geothermal market report, which expects to see a significant upturn in business activity linked to geothermal energy projects in Europe starting 2025. This is from Renewable Energy Magazine. And I don't know why, but I think it's it's partly a change in attitude, it's partly a change in technology. There's been a lot of press about Europe, about geothermal power in the last month, 2 months.
Yeah.
They have figured out better ways of getting it, better ways of working with it. And this geothermal thing, I think, is just a step in a direction that people are going to go. The Earth has an enormous amount of heat inside it, which is just very slowly coming to the surface, and you don't really notice it because the surface of the Earth is not all that different from the heat of the air, and sometimes it's hotter, and but this is going to change as we go on. I'm pretty sure it's going to change. Okay, we have a picture of a coal mine in Wyoming, and this is from Wyoming Public Media. The title is "Came for Coal, Stayed for the Rare Earths. New Mine Breaks Ground in Wyoming." Now, I found several articles on this, and they were a little bit confusing, but I had to kind of piece together what they all meant. The first U.S. rare earth mine in decades is breaking ground in Wyoming. Ramaco, by the way, there's another one which had closed down but reopened, so this is not the first one in decades. Ramaco, that other one, by the way, is in California, I believe. Ramaco Resources was considering reopening a closed coal mine when they realized it was sitting on the edge of a deposit of rare earth minerals needed for permanent magnets, among other things. Honestly, I don't think they're really serious about going after the coal. What they want to do is reopen the coal mine because it'll be easier for them to go after the rare earths.
Right.
I might be wrong about that. I want to tell people what rare earths are. There's 17 of them. They are elements. They're like sodium, tin, iron, copper, gold, uranium. They're all of these things are elements. And if you recognize any of these names, you win a prize, but I don't know what the prize is yet. Maybe it's just praise. So your prize would be praise. Here they are: scandium, yttrium, lanthanum, cerium, praseodymium, neodymium, promethium, samarium, europium, gadolinium, erbium, dysprosium, holmium. I said erbium, I meant europium. Now I say erbium. Thulium, ytterbium, and lutetium. And you've got every one of those probably right in your garden. They are not rare. They're common. The problem is, and the Trump administration is going after, and Apple today said they were putting $500 million into this mine, and the Trump administration wants a U.S. source for rare earths. And what they need is a factory, because we have places to mine rare earths. We can do that. But the thing that makes them rare, in the opinion of the people who came up with the term rare earth, is that they're almost impossible to separate from each other.
Right, yeah.
And and they have the most amazing properties. Some of them, like gadolinium, for example, is used commonly in nuclear reactors. And by the way...
Yeah, see, that one was the one that sounded familiar to me.
Yeah.
The rest, no. But that one...
That happens to be the one that I worked with when I was working in a chemical plant.
That's also probably why I remembered it, because you mentioned it.
And
probably.
I've handled tons of gadolinium, worth a lot of money. But this really kind of boggles my mind. The Trump administration wants to have nuclear power increased, because that will put us into a position where we are self-reliant, and they are, their solution for rare earths is open a mine. And they don't need to open a mine, they need to open a plant that can separate these things, which is a really hard job. Nuclear? 95% of our nuclear fuel comes from abroad. Most of it has come from Russia. Is that really what we want for independence?
Energy security?
Energy security? I don't think so.
Energy security theater, it's what it sounds like to me.
Energy security theater?
Yeah.
Good name. I like that. Okay. We have an item from Renews. And this is a picture of installation of what is called a suction bucket foundation. Ørsted wraps up jacket installation at the Changhua 2B and 4. That's a wind farm off the coast of, I believe, Taiwan. Ørsted finished installing all 66 suction bucket jacket foundations at the 920 gigawatt Greater Changhua 2B and 4 offshore wind farm, in Taiwan. The final structure was installed this week, completing the program ahead of schedule. Hirema Marine Contractors worked on the job. Now, look at that picture. Basically, could we get that enlarged again?
Yeah.
Between those two ships, you see a yellow jacket with these big things at the bottom, and those big things are like upside down buckets. Yeah. They have a valve in the top so that you can suck out anything any fluid, I should say, that's in them. So they put them in the water and they suck out all the air, and then they put them at the bottom of the sea, and they suck out all the water that they sucked in when they put the thing in. And what that does is it just pulls that thing down into the bottom of the sea and pulls the sand that they find down there or whatever else. They're going to check the bottom to make sure they can do this. And that is a pretty effective way of dealing with it. Okay. time to go on to Sunday, July 13th.
Yeah.
We have a picture of a solar farm and an item from Sustainable Times. The title of this article is Historic Day for Solar. UK and France hit new highs in renewable energy production. The UK set a record for solar power production. At 12:30 on Tuesday, this is a few days earlier. This report came out on Sunday. This is the previous Tuesday. Solar output reached 14 gigawatts, meeting 39% of UK demand. Interestingly, France saw solar output climb past 19.5 gigawatts, providing nearly 40% of French electricity demand. They had a heat wave, they had a lot of sunshine, and they were lucky they had this solar because nuclear plants were shutting down because they didn't have enough cooling water. There were 2 plants that shut down, one in France and one in Switzerland, but I believe there were other plants that went to partial capacity.
Well, the thing that I think is one of the reasons why heat is so bad is that fire creates problems too. If you mix fire and nuclear materials, you get something called a criticality, which is very dangerous for someone to ingest. Any of those gases, any of that is very, very dangerous for human life. So
ingesting anything from a nuclear power plant.
Exactly. But yeah, like at Rocky Flats, these sorts of fires and things that happen in nuclear weapons plants or nuclear production sites, that information is buried for the public, because if that information was out there, people would think that they weren't that safe.
The first nuclear power plant to melt down in the United States, there were 3 altogether. Mm-hmm. The first was the sodium reactor experiment, and I list it as first because it was online, it was delivering electricity for sale to the grid. It was, in that sense, a commercial reactor. And it melted down. Before Fermi, mm-hmm. which was just outside of Detroit, and before 3 Mile Island, Fermi is in Simi Valley, California. And there was never any data about what was released from that plant.
I remember doing some research on that one early on when I was doing some of my nuclear learnings, and that site.
I think it was probably the worst of the 3 meltdowns we've had in this country, for 3 commercial meltdowns. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, I remember I reached out to an activist out there asking what's going on, and she sent me this amazing, basically this incredible document about how nuclear came into a peace mode. So the idea of when Congress said yes, when the Price-Anderson Act, I received a wonderful document from someone at Simi Valley, because they're trying to get people to pay attention to understand that this is pretty bad.
You're reminding me of sitting in the snack bar at Drew University when I was a student, which would have been 1967, something like that, and hearing a girl say she didn't like military use of nuclear, but she was really positive about the peacetime use of nuclear. And when you put peacetime and nuclear together, it sounds so wonderful.
Atoms for peace. It sounds like it. There we go.
Obviously, it's good.
Right.
And my reaction to that was, that is a horrible idea. And she was like, what? Why?
It's like eating asbestos. That's totally normal.
It's like you're putting nuclear stuff into the hands of commercial operations, And their guidance is who makes money.
Yeah.
And
Profit.
believe me, they're going to do anything they have to do to make money.
Indeed, they will.
And, you know, what does that mean? It means that they'll bury nuclear materials without telling anybody where they are.
Oh, they might burn them.
They might burn them. That has happened. You know all about that.
Yeah.
I worked for a company once that had, when I worked there, they had no nuclear materials, but they had, it was U.S. radium.
Right.
The girls licking their brushes and then coming down with cancer and dying.
Yes.
And this is the idea that they had was, so people are going to sue you. So what you do is you sell everything you've got that you can sell, disperse the money to the stockholders, and go bankrupt.
Yes. That is the play. That's the actual play. Yeah, that's
and
the
it
play.
means that anybody who gets sick because you did something you shouldn't have done has got no recourse.
No recourse, and then they're paying their own tax. Their taxes are paying for a lot of this stuff too.
Okay, I'm falling behind.
Yeah. Get on nuclear. It's.
By the way, in that conversation, the girl said, "Is there any good use for nuclear?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "What is it?" I said, "If there is a good use for nuclear, it's military." And she was like, "What?" And I said, "Yeah, because an aircraft carrier takes a long time to refuel, and it has to be withdrawn from the combat area in order to be refueled. So nuclear power makes sense there. It makes sense to have nuclear power in submarines for similar reasons.
But not when we can't actually count the ways, the environmental damage that's being done by the military, because those numbers are never released. So we have no idea the amount of contamination that's been wrought by military.
You're absolutely right. I said that when I was 20 years old. Nobody should be allowed to talk before they're 30.
I know. I've learned this.
Okay. I'm way behind here.
Yeah.
Here is a picture of Arctic ice. Yeah. This is from Yahoo News. This is so aggravating to me. The title of the article is "Ahead of Deadly Texas Floods, So Many Warnings from Climate Scientists Were Missed." In March of this year, climate scientists were beginning to ring alarm bells over a horrific period of weather starting in the spring because the Arctic had its largest melt of ice ever recorded, and that prediction was reflected in the deadly floods we saw in Texas. The problem is we have global warming. The Gulf of Mexico is warmer than it normally is. So it allows more water to go into the air. The air is warmer. Every degree it goes up, it'll hold 7% more water.
Did nobody learn anything from El Nino?
Really, it's crazy when you think about it. You would think the climate scientists would say, okay, where are the places that are really vulnerable? And they would have picked, what's the name of that county in Texas? Short name. 4 letters. Well, they would have picked the county in Texas.
Is it H? Harris County?
No. It's 4 letters.
Okay.
They would have picked that county because it's in flash flood alley. They would have picked North Carolina in the mountains. They would have picked, over and over and over again. You look at the places where there are flash floods, that's where there are going to be more flash floods. That's where people have to be warned.
When their houses are on sticks, that's where they have to.
And you know, the people in Cameron, Louisiana, put their houses up on sticks.
Yeah.
Their first floor was 8 or 10 feet above the ground, which was like 3 feet above sea level.
Well, that's what's
And
happening in North Carolina, all along North Carolina.
All of those houses in Cameron, Louisiana, are lost because they were destroyed by hurricanes, which they were carefully built to allow to go through.
But the complication of rebuilding and not learning from that.
Not learning. Okay, I'm going on. We have a picture of Canada, and every time I see a map like that, I think of being a kid and having Canada Dry ginger ale around.
Oh.
Okay, this is from Clean Technica. The title is "O Canada, Who Stands on Guard for Thee?" ? The President of the United States has decided unilaterally to impose punishing new tariffs on Canada to avoid the harm of those tariffs, which, you know, are going to come and go because the numbers change all the time.
Yeah.
But to avoid the harm of those tariffs will do to the Canadian economy, our neighbor to the north is being told it must dismantle its policy that calls for all passenger cars sold in Canada to be electric by 2035. Good luck with that.
Yeah. Like stopping reality from continuing.
Today I saw that Donald Trump threatened to put a 100% tariff on everything that came from Russia.
That's what they're doing. He wants to do that with films, with movies. 100%.
But the problem is the Russians aren't shipping anything to the United States except maybe processed uranium. You know what I mean? When you don't have relations with a country, you're not going to be able to move them. Not like that. Okay, we're up to Monday. Wait a minute. Did I read that? Yes. We're up to Monday, July 14th, and we have a picture of solar farm. And this is from The Cool Down. The title is Massachusetts Offers New Solar Incentives as Federal Tax Credits Face the Chopping Block. And there is a quote, "We're evolving." According to Energy Sage, while the so-called Big Beautiful Bill, which I've got in quotes here, will end solar tax credits early, Massachusetts' revamped Solar Massachusetts Renewable Target Program is providing residents with an incentive to install solar. Mm-hmm. Well, why not? It means that people in Massachusetts are going to have their taxes a little marginally higher. And it means that solar installers in Massachusetts are probably going to survive more easily. Mm-hmm. And it means that a larger part of the electricity is going to come from solar. You know, is there anything wrong with that? Down in Texas, they know that last year they survived the summer without serious problems because they had so much solar installed. Ordinary people know that. And now they can't put more in. Okay, I'm going to go on.
Yeah.
This is a picture of the Rio Grande. It looks pretty small compared to the Connecticut River. But I will point out that big brown area in front with no vegetation is the bottom of the river. The river has retreated. This is from the BBC. The title is "The Deepening Water Shortage Row Between the United States and Mexico." A 1944 water sharing agreement says Mexico must send 430 million cubic meters of water per year from the Rio Grande to the United States. And the United States has to send 1.85 billion cubic meters per year from the Colorado River to the cities of Tijuana and Mexicali. But there isn't enough rain to do that. So the United States people in Texas are complaining bitterly that Mexico isn't supplying them with water that it doesn't have.
Oh.
I'm sorry. You know, this is crazy. Okay. Next, we have a picture of the Grand Canyon Lodge. This is from ABC News. Yeah. The title is "Wildfire Destroys Historic Grand Canyon Lodge. North Rim Closes for the Season." So that picture that you've got obviously happened before the wildfire. The Grand Canyon Lodge is one of dozens of structures destroyed by a fast-moving wildfire over the weekend, the National Park Service said. The lodge sat on the park's north rim and was the only in-park lodging option for that part of the park. But I don't think people would want to go there anyway, because the vegetation in that area is probably all burned up. It would be just a very depressing sight.
I have a friend of mine who stayed in that lodge, and she had sent me these pictures of just burning up and yeah. So and then we talk about John Muir, and we talk and this in the Grand Canyon being kind of the beginning stages, or the sort of ethos, and we have lots of complicated history of the founding of these movements of national parks. Yes. But they became something that all people had access to. Yes. They became something that everybody had access to.
Yes, and not only they became that, but there are national forests, there are national monuments. It just goes on and on and on. These things are property of the citizens of the United States, and you know, we're not treating things right. Okay, I'm going to go on. Yeah. This is a picture of wind turbines in Ireland. The article is from Renews. The title is "Irish Wind Generation Breaks June Record." In Ireland, wind generation generated the greatest amount of electricity on record for the month of June. A report from Wind Energy Ireland shows. The report says 30% of the electricity demand was met by Irish wind farms in the month, up slightly when compared to June of 2024. Irish solar farms also set a record. So in Ireland, we're doing the same thing as we did in France and the UK. This should hardly be a surprise to anybody. No. I'm going to go on. No surprise. This is one that I think is really interesting. This picture of Florida, I think actually came from the article. This is from Clean Technica. The title is "Florida City Real Estate Market Crashes After Being Super Hot a Few Years Ago." This is the real estate market in a Florida city. Cape Coral had a booming real estate market a few years ago. Now it is said to be what is called the worst housing market in America. That's in quotes. Housing prices dropped 11% in 2 years. That doesn't sound to me like anything like what it's going to do. These places that are near the ocean, at some point people are going to realize that you cannot buy these things and expect to live in them.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I wonder when that realization will happen.
It's already started. It started years ago, but it's anecdotal. It happens here. It happens there. It's okay. They are still falling. The cause is largely storms worsened by climate change with insurance problems. In order to buy a house, you have to get a mortgage. Most people do. In order to get a mortgage, you have to get insurance. That is a given. Mm-hmm. If you've got the money, you could buy a mansion for a low price in Florida that won't get insurance. Is that what you want to do with your hard-earned money? You know, real estate market over Florida is mixed. I've got a note here. Little Haiti neighborhood is an example of this from years ago. We reported on it years ago. Today, the real estate market in Miami is mixed. But why did Little Haiti prices suddenly go up? People in Little Haiti were having to move to Detroit to find a place to live because they couldn't afford rent anymore.
Yep.
These were Haitians. That's why it was called Little Haiti.
Yep.
Who was buying those condos or renting those apartments? It was people who were leaving condos on the beach. And why were they leaving those? Because the flooding situation was such that people just couldn't live in those things for the foreseeable future, so they bailed out.
I've been to Miami, and honestly, it is very strange. It is very strange to be downtown. It's very bizarre, these buildings. It looks unreal in certain senses. Mm-hmm. And then you go to like Hialeah or like Little Havana or these areas, and okay, there's people here. Okay.
Yeah. I wonder if the areas that you're talking about as being very strange in Miami were like what is it called? Crystal City?
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean,
it's just these large buildings, and is anyone living in them? I don't know, or maybe a few people are. People are investing, certainly.
Yeah.
And
I lived in Crystal City for a month with my daughter. We were just there for a month. And there was never anybody on the street.
In Crystal City is Virginia.
Virginia, but my daughter had a big window in her bedroom, and what was it looking at? The Pentagon. I mean, just look out her window and you could see the Pentagon.
Yep.
And you go out on the street. I went to the closest food shop, which was about 8 blocks down, mm-hmm. and I did it the way the guy at the desk said, this is how you go there. What do? You go across the street, and then you go into this building, and then you go downstairs to the tunnel.
Yes.
And you just walk along that tunnel for 8 blocks. Yep. And there are stores on both sides of the tunnel. It was amazing. I tried going down to the place on the surface, and I didn't see people, I didn't see cars, I didn't see buses. I saw a few planes take off, I saw a couple of trains go by, mm-hmm. but it was absolutely bizarre. Okay, so our next item here is from Clean Technica. GM's Ultium Cells venture. What if EVs survive the new tax bill after all? President Trump spent the first 6 months of his second term in office trying to make electric cars not happen, but signs of life keep emerging. The Ultium Cells EV battery branch of General Motors just announced plans to bring out its low-cost lithium ferrophosphate, with its LFP, EV batteries to market by late 2027. So they're, for people who are concerned about fires in these lithium-ion batteries burn. They're terrible. They're probably not as bad as gasoline, but they're terrible.
That's why you weren't supposed to have them on planes and such.
Yeah. Well, they've got ways of dealing with them now, especially in cars, because what they need is they need to be monitored, they need to be cooled, and so forth. These lithium ferrophosphate batteries don't have that problem. Gasoline has got a serious problem. I've seen cars just big balls of fire on the side of the road. That happens.
Yep.
Okay, we're up to Wednesday, July 16th, and we have a picture of why a nuclear power plant is dangerous. One reason. This is a soldier. He has what looks to my eye like an AK-47, but it might be an some other gun in the AK series. But he's got 2 drones there. And this is from ABC News. The title is Iraqi Field on Fire. Oil field on fire after drone strike during attacks in Kurdish region. An oil field in Iraq's Dohuk province was set ablaze after being struck by a drone. It is the latest in a series of similar attacks launched recently against oil facilities in northern Iraq's semi-autonomous Kurdish region. No group has claimed responsibility. Okay, this is a problem. Those drones might cost $100. And we've seen how the Ukrainians use them. You can fly a drone along, and then you see a tank, and the hatch is open. So you put the drone into the tank and blow it up. And they just do this. If the hatch isn't open, you fly it into the tank between the body of the tank and the turret. So it goes into this little area where the blast is confined, and the turret pops off, and the tank burns up, and the people in it are no more. And you know, this is a problem, not the gun. Those guns, the reason why the AK-47 is called an AK-47 is because it was introduced in 1947. Those things have been around for a long time, but those drones have not.
True. And
people are, they're like landmines. You know, a landmine can be built for, in some cases, less than $5. What do you do? Why would a person do that? First of all, it's because he doesn't want to be invaded. So he puts out lots and lots of landmines to protect his country. That's what they're there for. It's kind of hard to get people not to do that if they feel insecure. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go on because we've got 2 more items.
Yeah.
Okay, we have an article from Renews, a picture of wind turbines, and the title is German Onshore Wind Sector Toasts Bumper Half Year. This is not a production of electricity. It is, yes, I'm right. Germany's onshore wind sector recorded its strongest half-year performance since 2017, according to the German Wind Energy Association. In the first 6 months of 2025, 409 onshore wind turbines were commissioned with a total capacity of 2.2 gigawatts, up 67% from the first half of 2024. That's a lot. I'm just going to jump to the next article because we've only got a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
This is from Renews, and that is a picture of the Mona Lisa. Who'd have thought?
Yeah, there's a Mona Lisa vessel cable laying.
Yeah. Cable laying begins for the CVOW offshore wind farm. This is important. The CVOW is Coastal Virginia Offshore Wind Farm. The new Prysmian cable laying vessel Mona Lisa is now, and I spelled that for some reason in this synopsis with 2 N's in Mona, so I apologize for that, is now installing the first submarine cable for the Coastal Virginia Offshore Wind Project. Dominion Energy is developing the project with a capacity of 2.6 gigawatts. This is big. It is the largest offshore wind farm under construction in the United States. It's bigger than Empire. Why hasn't this been threatened with shutdown? Well, it's because they already had most of the wind turbines up, and the Trump administration was not willing to do anything about it. But at 2.6 gigawatts, it's going to be producing more electricity than a large nuclear power plant. And, you know, this is going to make a difference. Now, offshore wind is not cheap compared to onshore wind. But, you know, we just have to do what we can. And I would also say, thinking about who will be, I guess, who will be accessing that power. Will it be a region by there, or will it just be
or will it be used and then sent to another location?
I can't answer that. It's Dominion, of course, which is the owner of this, is a big utility in Virginia, and beyond Virginia.
Yes.
So they're going to use it, and my guess is that they're probably going to use. They're going to sell it using a power purchase agreement with some company. Okay. We want to wish everybody to have a particularly delightful week.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to say goodbye to everybody. So we hope you come back next week.